Well, this is Baruch here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and today is the Shir in the Zohar for the second day of the week, which is the day of Gevurah, and we're learning Parshas Pikudei, which is all about details of the construction of the Mishkan. Now, in order to make this a little bit, just give a little hakdama here. There are lots of different drawings that we can draw of Zer Anpin and the Nook. So normally the drawing, and I'm going to take it like this, is that we say Zer Anpin is like a tube. Okay, so let me see how I'm doing here. It's like a tube. And his Nukva, which is a part of him, is over here. This is where her normal, what they call her normal position. Now the idea here is we could draw this in different ways, because you can draw the nukva to his side and or draw the nukva to his bottom. It depends on what you're trying to say about the nature of the nukva and Zer Anpin. Normally we have a cloud up here. Let's say it's a cloud, right? The cloud here, we're going to call this Ima or Bina. And Bina is going to pour into Zer Anpin from three sides. She's going to pour in this way with her nahi. Now let's say, so I'll try to write it in English. So we'll write it in English, nahi, which means her three lower sephiros. And they're going to come to Zer Anpin like this. And then they're going to branch off, and they're going to go this way, and this way. And this one is going to go down the center and create the three lines of Zer Anpin. Now the normal procedure of what happens is these mochin, as they come into Zer Anpin, they're also transferred through a yichud between Zer Anpin and his nook, which allows her to grow. Now we're going to be using some other words over here, because we want to really understand one of the characteristics of Zer Anpin, and what are the characteristics of Malchus. How do they differ in their nature? And so let's read the Matuk Midavashi. Has this little blurb that he wants to bring us at the beginning. And let's take a look at it and see how we can understand it. So he says, Lahavim eschem shekamaymer. Now we're going to discuss certain things. Nakdim masha kasav Arizal. Now we're going to come to what has been written by the Ari. And he writes this in the 29th shar over here in the fourth parak. Ki ima ilo nikras mida. So this is a definition. He's telling you that if you want another definition for ima ilo, which is bina, then we would be thinking about the concept of measurement. Shehi modedis, because she measures. The kotsevis, which means that she draws a distinction of a kitzba, a distinct line, b'zer anpin, V'his lavshus, v'his pashtus, hanahi shalo bo. Now, let me just stop there and come back over here to what did I do with my drawing. Hello, one moment, please. Oh, here it is. Okay. So, in my little drawing here, we have that she comes into Zer Anpin. Let me make a different drawing. This is called what I call the Charles Atlas drawing of Zer Anpin. And in this drawing, we're going to make Zer Anpin like this, this, and then we're going to have something on the bottom. Okay, so this would be Chesed, this would be Gevurah, this is going to be Tiferes, this is going to be Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. What's this down here? This is Malchus. Now, what he's trying to say is that the mochin, the drawings, is the mochin come into Zer Anpin from Bina. Bina has the ability to be able to set measurements. And to this point, where the shefa starts flowing down the right line, it's only going to go so far and deliver the moach of chesed into chesed. And the same thing with netzach. And the same thing on the left side with Gevurah. And then you have hod. And then what happens is the whole thing pools into Yesod, and then Yesod pools into Malchus. So we're going to have two different words that we want to understand here. One is the word mida, that what comes from ima, in, goes only so far, and it's a specific place and a destination that it's supposed to go to. Because the difference between Chachma and Bina and all the elements of spheros on the right side versus the left side is that the right side is pouring, just pours. The left side cuts it down, and the left side, the top of the left side, is going to be Bina. There's going to be a Bina up here, and there's be a Chachma over here, which we'll call the Yud. And that's going to be the right side and the left side, and then it's all going to come down, and we're going to see these definitions to understand the concept of Cheshban, which refers to Malchus, and Medida, which refers to Zeranpin. We'll try to explain it a little bit. We'll look at the Zohar. So the Zohar says like this, going on with the what we were reading in the Matok Medavash, he says, Kagon Mishpashe Perek Echod Menai de Ima. Now, the Nai of Ima, the Netzachod Yisod of Ima, each one of those spheros gets divided into three parts. Toch Beis Prakim de Zer Anpin, Devok de Zer Anpin, and two of these parts go into the 6 kitzvos of Zer Anpin. And when they enter in, they make a complete sphera of Zeranpin. And this concept is that Ima therefore makes a designation as to exactly where Chesed will be located, how big it is, and what it contains. As if she is saying, from here until here, we have the sphere of Chachma. And then here, then Chesed will only go so far. And so you have this in all of the spheros. Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod all have a specific amount or size to them. And what's the reason? The reason is because we are dealing in Zer Anpin is a light processing parts of, which its purpose is to limit the light to such extent that it continues, is not snuffed out, but it continues to be acceptable to spheros and worlds that are much smaller, so that they can handle the light of the Ein Sof. So that's the concept of the Medida, which comes from Bina. V'chein ha'inyan, so the same kind of idea refers to Malchus. His lavshus hanai de'ima ba, as the Nai of Ima comes into Zer Anpin, and as a result of that, the mochin that they carry transfer ultimately to Bina, to Malchus. Ella sheba heim sod hacheshban, because by there we're talking about the count. What exactly? And this is a general rule which we saw in the Otros Chaim, and we'll read again sometimes to bring in some of these ideas. He says that Sheba Haim Sod HaCheshbon of account. How much? At first we said the limitations. This is limitation. This is limited. That's limited. That's the concept of the Bedida. The Bedida really refers to the 6 kitzvos as their anpin. This one is here, and that one is there, and this one begins here, and that one ends, and then this one begins. Like that. That's the concept of limitation of the light. But ultimately, how much light makes it through to the lower worlds depends on how much actually there is there. And so therefore, that's what Malchus is. Malchus is the designation, the actual quantity, the actual holding of light. Now let me hold for a second, and we'll get back here for a second later. So now we're going to let me bring this up a little bit so that I can get the whole page in here. And let's go over and take a look at the Zohar. We're just going to read the Zohar from the top. I guess we could be on the top. The Zohar says, Tachazi, come and see, is bedido tami v'gonis. There is a measurer, a measurement, a measurer that is hidden, secreted away. This chushpan, but there's also the concept of account. There is accounting. The kind of begeniza tamir v'gonis, which is also in a hidden place, that is hidden away and secreted. V'hai kaima bebedidu. This exists according to one of them exists according to its measurement. Where does it start? Where does it end? As we said before, v'hai kaima bechushbana. The other one exists for the purpose of being counted. V'dolki rosa v'kiyuma dekula de le'ela desata. If you understand this, you'll understand the basic principle that it refers to the upper worlds and the lower worlds as well. It said, begin to hakim medidu, because this measurement, or the measuring process, lo isyada the almem, is never really known, not something you could see its secret away, al mal kaima raza the hakum medidu. What exactly it is that is the energy that allows for this measuring process to take place. And then what is it that allows Malchus to be involved in being counted, or being involved in counting what she holds? This is really the secret of the faith, of everything, of believing in everything. Let's go a little bit more in this, and we'll go to the Matak Medavash after this. It says, Vayisrael l'sato, but the Jewish people down here, lo kaime b'chushpana, we cannot live if we're counted. Ella besitra de mila achra, there has to be another way for this to happen. In other words, in Olam V'tzilus, counting is okay, because there you see what's in Malchus, and that we need to know what's coming to the lower worlds. But in the lowest world, where we are, we can't be counted directly. And if you want to know that all of this, if you're going to be saved from a difficult situation, the definition of the problems that arise come with human beings when they're counted. Begin kach, for this reason, kad alin b'chushpana, when we come to a place where we need to know the population of the Jewish people, we take a different route to see how we could be counted. So in this we understand in the days of King David, when it came to count the Jewish people, and he didn't take a pidyon, that's the word I was looking for, redemption money, the shekel, or the half shekel. There was a tremendous anger that came as a result of this from Hashem. And as a result of that, many different groups, many different encampments, and whole families were wiped out. Begin kachsib ba'ovad the mashkanas, and this is the reason why we come over to the count that was taken for the Mishkan. The Pikudei, but the money itself, the silver, was from people who had used silver in order to be counted. Because it says all of those who came to be counted, and we're talking here about the shkalim, v'kula iskadesh l'chavidus mishkana. So all of it was done in order to make the Mishkan. So this has been explained. Kikrim chushbana. So there's a count called a kikar, which is a certain quantity. It's one kind of count. Shkalim chushbanachada. So over here in the construction of the Mishkan, we had kikarim of metal, of precious metals, and we also had shkalim. He said, but these two different things, even though they may be the same metal, but they're actually for different purposes. Begin the Iz'i law, the Salkan, the Chashbani law, because there is a higher form of coin or something which is precious that could be counted in this world, that'll go to a higher level of counting. This Achronim, but there are other ones, he says, the Salkan, the Chushbana, that go into a different kind of counting. Da ilah v'da tato. In other words, the shkalim go for us down here in the world. But the kikaring, which is large quantities of silver or metal, precious metal, whichever we would be dealing with. This would be, so one is for the upper world, one is for the lower world. Begin kachasiv, and this reason it's written vihi ma'az kikar kasif letzekes adnei hakodesh. But you took here 100. This is lashon 100 kikar of kasif of silver. The tzekes, in order to be able to cover, the tzekes is, what would it be? As adnei hakodesh. In other words, to cover them. I'm trying to think of what the right word is for that, but I don't have it. Elon adanim ha'ukmich. So we explain that. We've talked about it before. How it is that different kinds of metal, the same metal, but depending on what it's designated for. Now let's see here if we could get into a little bit before our time runs out on the Matuk Medavash and his explanation. Is he says V'zeh she'amar tachazi is medido tome vegonis. Bavareki yesh inyan. There's a subject here, shal medida. We want to understand the mida. Medida refers to zeranpin. Shehi stuma v'genuzubo. Now, what we mean to say, the mida inside of zeranpin, that there is a energy which causes stuma v'genuza. Kolomer ima mislaveshes v'necholamas b'sil zeranpin, because we understand that the energy is coming from the nai of ima. It's going to zeranpin. And when she spreads into zeranpin, he modedes asoke ila he omeres mikan ad kan tehiyas viris achachma. So she's doing a measuring job. She comes into zeranpin and she's looking. She's in his head, let's say, so to speak, and she has with her these midos which are contained inside of her nai. So let's say, for example, on her netzach, which we had shown yesterday in a different shir, has 3 different compartments. When these 3 different compartments enter into Zer Anpin, each one of them is going to be designated to a specific place within Zer Anpin, and that ability to make specificity is a quality that we find in Zer Anpin. Then he says like this, V'is chushban d'kaima b'geniza tome v'gonis. There's also another concept, not bedida, measurement, but cheshban, which means counting. Shuhu b'malchus, which is in malchus, because ultimately everything that comes through Zer Anpin gets filtered down, and this is the word in Hebrew mismatus, where the light itself is continuously made smaller through the different midos, the different measurements, which is from the energy of Ima, which is inside of Zer Anpin. But not only does it produce this energy for Medida, but it also produces the energy for counting. So he said, V'yesh cheshben shuhu b'malchus shehomedes al yedei geniza, because it's hidden inside through a hiddenness. What's the hiddenness? She'ima sefona v'genuza mislavesha b'socha, because Ima comes into Zer Anpin, it gets absorbed in Zer Anpin, and she's hidden inside of there. Not to say that once she's hidden inside of Zer Anpin, or she's absorbed in Zer Anpin, that her energy that she brought went away. No. And that's what he's coming to tell us. That the concept of the Bedida and the concept of Cheshbon is an energy that comes into Zer Anpin as a result of the Nai of Ima coming in. V'hai the Kaiba Bedida, Zer Anpin only Bedina, al Yedei Rebbe Ima, so Zer Anpin, therefore he stands as in the state of measurement. And I said the right word for this is hismatus. Hismatus means limitation, like from mat, to make something smaller. That's what Zer Anpin does. As the light flows through these medidos, the medidos do the job of measuring as a result of an energy that comes from Ima, that comes inside of Zer Anpin. V'hai kaima b'chushba. And so that's what happens in the medida. But at the same time, there is a malchus there that has the ability to be counted. And this also comes from the energy that comes from Ima. So therefore, through Ima, also Malchus stands. So this is the basis of everything that exists in the world is because of this. As we said before, the Nahi, the Netzachot Yisod of Ima, has within it these Mochim for Zer Anpin. And he said, "Who sowed the kiyam kol hasviras l'mala b'zer anpin." This is the secret of the establishment and the sustaining of all the sinas up above in the olamos atzilus of zer anpin. But at the same time, not just zer anpin, but below or connected to zer anpin is malchus. The lamata b'malchus, and in malchus it makes the concept of counting. She lo anai the imam is pashete bezun. Because if the Nai of Ima would not spread into Zohar v'Nuk, as a mocha b'sochel, they would not be able to receive the mochim. Ultimately, in Zer Anpin, and then where we want to see the Mochim is in Malchus, because that is where the Cheshbon and the real power of it gathers together to be able to mashpia to the lower worlds. This is Baruch Fleischman at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel on this second day of the Parsha of Pikudei.